Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillah, we are very happy to meet again on the Islamic Notes channel, where we together bring Islamic values to life through stories that are full of meaning and life lessons. Every story we present is not just entertainment, but also a reminder that in every test there is a hidden blessing. In every step, there is an opportunity to get closer to Allah. These stories teach us to remain patient, steadfast in goodness, and always be grateful for every provision of His. Don't forget to subscribe and activate the notification bell so you don't miss the stories full of wisdom that we present regularly. Support from all friends means a lot to us to continue presenting useful and inspiring Islamic content. Let's start the story. The traces of Islam in Ukraine can be traced back to the 10th to 11th centuries CE, when Muslim traders and explorers from the Arab world and Persia visited the Black Sea coast. Trade routes connecting the Middle East, Central Asia, and Eastern Europe brought Muslim traders to ports in Kherson, Odessa, and what is now Crimea. However, the more significant development of Islam began in the 13th and 14th centuries, with the arrival of the Tatars, the majority of whom were Muslim. The Crimean Tatars became the largest Muslim community in the region and had a significant influence on the spread of Islam in Ukraine. History of Islam in Ukraine. Islam in Ukraine is not a new religion. It has a long history dating back to the arrival of Muslim traders from Arabia and Persia on the Black Sea coast in the 10th century. However, Islam's significant influence in the region was truly felt after the predominantly Muslim Crimean Tatars settled there. Their presence brought Islamic teachings, culture, and traditions that have enriched Ukraine's history. The peak of Islam's prosperity in Ukraine occurred during the Crimean Khanate, from the 15th to the 18th centuries. At that time, Crimea became a center of Islamic culture and education in Eastern Europe. Magnificent mosques, madrasas, and centers of learning stood in cities like Bakhchisarai. Islam became a vital part of the political, legal, and social life of the local community, strengthening ties with the Ottoman Empire. However, this heyday did not last. After Russia took control of Crimea in 1783, Muslims began to face oppression. Many mosques were closed or converted, and religious freedom was restricted. The situation worsened during the Soviet era. The communist government suppressed all religious activities, including Islam. The darkest tragedy occurred in 1944, when Stalin's regime deported hundreds of thousands of Crimean Tatars to Central Asia, separating them from their ancestral homeland. The revival of Islam in Ukraine began after the collapse of the Soviet Union and Ukraine's independence in 1991. The exiled Crimean Tatar community began to return to their homeland. Destroyed mosques were repaired, Islamic educational centers reopened, and the Muslim identity was gradually restored. The Great Mosque of Ar-Rahma in Kyiv has become a symbol of the rise of Islam in modern Ukraine. However, this journey has been tested once again. Russia's annexation of Crimea in 2014 and the ongoing war since 2022 have presented new challenges for Muslims. Many have become refugees, several mosques have been damaged, and religious activities have been restricted in conflict areas. Nevertheless, Muslims in Ukraine continue to play an active role in humanitarian aid and fostering harmony amidst the crisis. Islam in Ukraine today is not only a part of its past history, but also a vital part of the country's cultural and religious diversity. Their presence teaches fortitude, loyalty to the homeland, and the spirit of maintaining harmony amidst the storms of history. Islam's long journey in Ukraine is proof that faith and steadfastness can endure even in the face of severe trials. The development of Islam in Ukraine. After Ukraine's independence in 1991, the door to religious freedom was opened wide for Muslims. This moment marked a turning point for the revival of Islam in a land that had for centuries witnessed the ups and downs of the Muslim community. Crimean Tatars exiled during the Soviet era began returning to their homeland. Together with other Muslim communities from Central Asia, the Middle East, and the Caucasus, they reshaped the foundations of Islamic life in Ukraine. A significant milestone in the development of modern Islam in Ukraine was the construction of the great Ar-Rahma Mosque in Kyiv inaugurated in the 2000s. This mosque serves as a center for worship, education, and interfaith dialogue, and a symbol of Islamic revival in a predominantly Orthodox Christian country. Furthermore, historic mosques in Crimea, such as the Khan Uzbek Mosque in Stary Crim and the Juma-Jami Mosque in Yevpatoria, were restored to revitalize Islamic cultural heritage. Islamic education has experienced rapid growth. Institutions such as the Islamic University of Ukraine in Kyiv and various madrasas in Crimea have become centers of religious learning for young Muslims. Organizations such as Al-Raid and the Spiritual Council of Muslims of Ukraine, DUMU, play a vital role in fostering the Muslim community, organizing social activities and spreading moderate and tolerant Islamic values. Furthermore, the Ukrainian Muslim community is actively involved in social and humanitarian activities. They have established zakat institutions, assisted disaster victims, and provided assistance to refugees displaced by the war that has plagued the country since 2014 and flared up again in 2022. The participation of Muslims in these humanitarian efforts demonstrates that Islam in Ukraine exists not only as a religious identity, but also as a pillar of national solidarity. On the other hand, Muslims in Ukraine face real challenges in maintaining religious freedom, especially in areas under Russian influence or control following the annexation of Crimea. Several mosques and madrasas are under strict surveillance, several Muslim leaders have been arrested or forced to leave, and religious activities are often viewed with suspicion as threats. This situation is distressing and recalls the dark history of oppression against Muslims in the past. Despite this, the development of Islam in Ukraine continues to demonstrate remarkable resilience. The number of Muslims in the country is now estimated at between 400,000 and 800,000. They are not only ethnic Crimean Tatars, but also indigenous Ukrainians who embraced Islam, as well as immigrants from other Muslim countries. This Muslim community lives side by side with non-Muslims in an atmosphere of tolerance that continues to be maintained, especially in areas far from the conflict. Today, Islam in Ukraine stands as a vital part of the country's cultural mosaic. From bustling mosques to modern Islamic schools, from Crimean Tatar traditions to Muslim contributions to politics and humanitarianism, all serve as evidence that Islam in Ukraine has not only survived, but also thrived despite the storms of history. This development offers new hope for the future of Islam in Ukraine. With a spirit of togetherness, Muslims in this country continue to fight for their rights, contribute to peace, and be part of the effort to build a more inclusive and peaceful Ukraine. Islam in Ukraine. The development of Islam in Ukraine is reflected not only in the increasing number of mosques and educational institutions, but also in the growing role of Muslims in building social harmony within a diverse society. Despite being a minority, Muslims in Ukraine demonstrate their loyalty to their homeland by actively participating in defending the country's sovereignty and helping fellow citizens regardless of religion or ethnicity. In cities such as Kyiv, Lviv, Odessa, Kharkiv, and Dnipro, Muslim communities have established Islamic cultural centers that serve as places for learning, dialogue, and introducing Islamic teachings to the wider community. These centers not only teach religious knowledge but also promote the values of tolerance, brotherhood, and interfaith cooperation. Their presence helps to erode prejudice and misunderstandings about Islam that still persist in some parts of Ukrainian society. Muslim contributions are also evident in the political and humanitarian spheres. Several Muslim figures, particularly from the Crimean Tatar community, serve in parliament and actively advocate for minority rights and religious freedom. Meanwhile, Muslim organizations are collaborating with international humanitarian agencies to provide food, medicine, and shelter to victims of the war, including non-Muslims. The journey of Muslims in Ukraine also reflects the steadfastness of their faith. Despite facing discrimination, strict surveillance in conflict zones, and even the threat of expulsion in some foreign-controlled areas, they remain committed to the peaceful teachings of Islam and its emphasis on brotherhood. This serves as a source of inspiration not only for Ukrainian Muslims, but also for Muslims worldwide. In the context of its long history, the presence of Islam in Ukraine is clear evidence that this religion is not foreign or new to Eastern Europe. Islam has been part of Ukraine's cultural heritage for centuries, through language, art, architecture, and even Crimean Tatar customs, which have influenced the country's civilization. Today, Ukrainian Muslims look to the future with hope. They hope to continue practicing their religion safely, raising their children in a peaceful atmosphere, and contributing to the development of their country amidst the still difficult situation caused by the war. For them, religious freedom and social justice are the foundations that must be upheld so that Muslims can live harmoniously alongside all Ukrainians. This long journey also taught us that Islam in Ukraine is not just about history in the past, but also about the future we want to build, a future that upholds the values of humanity, peace, and unity amidst diversity. In a land that has witnessed centuries of turmoil, the light of Islam continues to shine as a guiding light of hope for future generations. Community and diversity in Ukraine. The presence of Muslims in Ukraine is an important part of the nation's diverse mosaic. Ukraine is known as one of the Eastern European countries with a long history of being a melting pot of ethnicities, languages, and religions. Amidst the Orthodox Christian majority, Islam stands as the second largest religion, followed by Catholicism, Protestantism, and Jewish communities. This diversity creates a unique social dynamic, where Muslims serve as a bridge to strengthen tolerance and mutual understanding. The Muslim community in Ukraine consists of various ethnic backgrounds. Crimean Tatars are the largest and oldest group, with a history deeply rooted in Crimea dating back to the 13th century. In addition, there are other Muslim communities who arrived as immigrants or descendants from Central Asia, the Middle East, and the Caucasus, such as Uzbeks, Chechens, and Azerbaijanis, as well as a small number of indigenous Ukrainians who embraced Islam. Each of these communities brings its own culture and traditions, which have subsequently blended with the local Ukrainian culture. In major cities such as Kyiv, Odessa, Kharkiv, and Lviv, Muslim communities play an active role in fostering harmonious relations with the local community. They engage in interfaith dialogue, hold cultural festivals, and build bridges of communication with churches and other religious communities. Mosques serve not only as places of worship, but also as cultural centers open to anyone wishing to learn more about Islam. The diversity of Ukraine is also reflected in daily life. In traditional markets, restaurants, and even social events, Muslims and non-Muslims interact peacefully. Many Ukrainians are open to their Muslim neighbors, especially when they see the role of the Islamic community in humanitarian and educational fields. In some regions, particularly in pre-conflict Crimea, intercultural and interfaith marriages are also a tangible testament to the harmony that once existed in this land. However, the journey towards full equality and harmony is not yet complete. The greatest challenges come from political conflict and war, which often disrupt intergroup relations. Some Muslims, especially in foreign-controlled areas, still face discrimination or strict surveillance. However, a spirit of tolerance and awareness of the importance of diversity continues to grow within Ukrainian society, especially in more stable areas. The role of younger Muslims is also noteworthy. They serve as a bridge between the rich Islamic tradition and modern life in Ukraine. Through education, business, art, and social media, this generation strives to demonstrate that being Muslim and being a Ukrainian citizen can coexist without conflict. They contribute to building a positive image of Islam as a religion that teaches peace, knowledge, and solidarity. Diversity in Ukraine, with Islam as one of its key pillars, offers hope for a more inclusive and harmonious society. Throughout its long history, the country has experienced war, oppression, and significant political change, but it also has the ability to embrace differences. Amidst the trials of time, the Muslim community in Ukraine remains part of the national mosaic, strengthening unity and reminding the world that diversity is a strength, not a weakness. Tracing the traces of Islam in Ukraine today. The traces of Islam in Ukraine remain evident and alive in various parts of the country. Despite being a minority religion, Islam has left a lasting historical legacy, while also revealing its modern face through the development of Muslim communities in the contemporary era. One of the best places to trace the traces of Islam in Ukraine is the Crimea region, which has been a center of Islamic civilization for centuries. In the city of Bakhchisarai, the former capital of the Crimean Khanate, stands the majestic Khan's Palace, a testament to the glory of the Crimean Tatars. Inside, it features historic mosques, carved Arabic calligraphy, and distinctive Ottoman architecture that blends the beauty of Islamic art with local influences. This place now serves as a symbol of Muslim cultural heritage that remains preserved, despite challenges posed by political conflict in the region. Furthermore, the Juma-Jami Mosque in Yevpatoria is one of the oldest and most magnificent mosques in Crimea. Built in the 16th century by the renowned Ottoman architect Mimar Sinan, the mosque remains a center of worship and a source of pride for Muslims. Traces of Islamic architecture are also visible in the ancient buildings of Stari Krim, a city that served as the seat of government for the Uzbek Khans in the 14th century. Beyond Crimea, Islamic heritage can also be found in the Ukrainian capital, Kyiv, through the presence of the Great Mosque of Ar-Rahma. Built by the Muslim community in the early 21st century, this mosque is now a symbol of the revival of Islam in modern Ukraine. With architecture that blends Middle Eastern design with local Eastern European styles, the mosque serves not only as a place of worship, but also as a center for education, social activities, and interfaith dialogue. Many non-Muslim visitors come here to learn more about Islam. Traces of Islam are also present in the daily lives of Muslim communities in Ukraine. In traditional markets in Odessa or Kyiv, one can find Muslim vendors from Central Asia selling spices, halal meat, and specialties like shebereki and pilaf, which have become popular dishes in several regions of Ukraine. These culinary traditions are clear evidence of how Islamic culture has been integrated into local life. The presence of Islamic educational institutions, such as madrasas and Islamic schools, is also part of the journey of Islam in Ukraine today. These institutions teach not only religious knowledge but also modern sciences to prepare a competitive generation of Muslims. Many young Ukrainian Muslims are fluent in Ukrainian, Russian, and Arabic, while also being active in academia, business, and technology. Amidst the conflict ravaging Ukraine, the footprint of Islam is also visible in humanitarian actions. Muslim communities are often at the forefront of providing aid to war victims and refugees, regardless of their religion or ethnicity. Mosques and Islamic cultural centers are often converted into aid posts, shelters, or soup kitchens for communities in need. Tracing the footprint of Islam in Ukraine today reveals that Islam is not something foreign or new to this country. Rather, it has become part of Ukraine's history, culture, and social life. The legacy of the past, combined with the spirit of modern revival, testifies to the resilience of the Muslim faith and their contribution to building a more peaceful, inclusive, and harmonious future for Ukraine. Traces left behind in historic mosques, on market streets, in madrasa classrooms, and even in humanitarian actions all confirm that Islam in Ukraine is a living part of the diversity that enriches this country. Looking at this journey, we can understand that Islam in Ukraine is not just a historical narrative, but also a story of continuity that continues to be written amidst the challenges of our time. Conclusion: Islam in Ukraine is a story of resilience, diversity, and hope. From the early days of Muslim traders on the Black Sea coast, through the glory of the Crimean Khanate, to the repressive times of the Soviet era, Muslims in Ukraine have maintained their faith and identity. Today, amidst the challenges of war and humanitarian crises, the Muslim community remains a vital part of the fabric of the diverse Ukrainian nation. The presence of historic mosques, Islamic educational institutions, and the active role of Muslims in social activities demonstrate that Islam is not a foreign religion in this country. It has become part of the historical and cultural heritage that enriches Ukrainian identity. Moreover, Islam in Ukraine proves that differences in belief do not have to be a cause for division, but can be a foundation for building harmony and brotherhood. The long journey of Muslims in Ukraine also teaches the world that steadfast faith can endure despite the storms of history. Amidst severe trials, they have maintained the values of peace, tolerance, and solidarity. Today, a generation of Ukrainian Muslims looks to the future with determination to continue contributing to building an inclusive and peaceful nation. Islam in Ukraine is not just a relic of the past, but also a beacon of light for the future. Its rich historical heritage, warm culture, An enduring spirit of togetherness serve as a reminder to us all that diversity is strength. Within differences lies the opportunity for mutual understanding,